Welcome back to the Weekend Show. You're now watching the political segment. We'll be talking about the Anambra elections and what to expect. As we all know, as we count down to the upcoming Anambra elections, we can definitely be looking forward to stakeholders who are already perfecting plans to ensure a peaceful and credible election. So far, the Inspector General of Police has ordered the deployment of 34,000 police personnel, three police helicopters, amongst others, to the state to prevent a break in law and order. Political parties have also rounded off campaigns, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has been working assiduously to ensure preparations go as planned. On today's political segment of the Weekend Show, we'll be talking about expectations for the Anambra elections coming up. Joining us to discuss this, we have
Paul James, Program Manager at YEGA Africa. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Barrister Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner. Welcome to the Weekend Show, sir.
Thank you so much.
And returning to the show, Ariel Dare Atoye, a political analyst and an advocate for free and fair elections. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Okay, we have to address the biggest elephant in the room, and I'll start with you, Commissioner. Would electronic transmissions of votes be used during the Anambra elections?
We are going to upload polling unit results to our central result viewing portal for public viewing, in which case any Nigerian that is internet savvy or any Nigerian that has internet facilities can view these results as they come in from the polling units. In other words, we are going to still upload from EC8A into our INEC result viewing portal for the purposes of the Anambra election. We did that in Edo State, we did that in Ondo, and we've done that in over 25 by elections and other elections that we have conducted. So we are going to continue with that particular process. As you know, what is going on in the Senate and in the House of Representatives is still very incoherent. And until it becomes law, we cannot use this as the basis for doing anything. So we are going to continue with what we've been doing before in relation to the Anambra governorship election.
Commissioner, just to, as a lawyer, with the National Assembly giving the prerogative to INEC, saying INEC can decide, doesn't that make it a gray line when it comes to this electronic transmission? Because yes, INEC is independent. However, it's a gray line if it's not clearly put in the amendment saying this should be done. Just saying it's up to INEC to decide. Isn't that a gray line which could affect us in future?
Well, you know, in the commission, we really don't want to speculate in relation to the fine details of the law. This is because the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria passed their own version. The House of Representatives passed their own version. Now they are going to meet in a conference committee to harmonize their own versions. Thereafter, it will be transmitted to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for assent. It is only when the President assents to it that it becomes law. Then we will now see in very clear terms and concretely and comprehensively what has been passed, the role of the Independent National Electoral Commission in it, and what is expected of us. So we are just keeping all the options open. But the implication is that we are also preparing, putting things together, because we don't want to be caught napping. We don't want to be caught off guard in case it becomes law. Because if it becomes law, the Nigerian people will expect us to move very, very fast and actualize the intendment of the law. So we are also looking at our own processes and our procedures, and also getting ready in terms of carrying out what the law expects us. Now, but one thing that is very clear, you can see that in Edo and Ondo governorship elections, and in all these other off-season and by-elections that we have conducted, we uploaded the results from the polling units to our central result viewing portal, but we did not use it for purposes of collation of results and announcing the winners. And that's where the challenge is. You can transmit election results, but if you do not change the dominant manual transmission mode embedded in section 63, 65, and 74 of the Electoral Act, you still leave the transmitted results hanging in the balance. So what we want is for the National Assembly to remove those encumbrances that makes the manual transmission the dominant procedure, so that if we transmit electronically and then we also transmit manually, if there's a challenge, if there's a problem, if there's a conflict, we can now use our own mechanisms for purposes of adjudication and maybe use the electronically transmitted result as the dominant procedure for announcing, for collation of results and announcing the winner.
Sticking with the Anambra elections, Aria, you're a key stakeholder in this space. How prepared do you believe INEC is to conduct these elections?
You're putting me on a hot seat when the chief is here. But I must commend INEC so far, and I think they've worked with Nigerians, and people have seen that commitment on the part of INEC in terms of those commitments too. And people were also happy when we saw that document that was released by INEC on the electronic transmission of results, stating clearly that they were ready. And the road that they came, people were not expecting, National Assembly was not expecting that INEC officials were going to come on a live TV, talking that we are ready, we can do this and all of that. It shows that they have, they believe that at least we should do what is sensible, what is nice, and to pattern our election based on best practices and the way we say across the world. I want to believe that INEC is prepared for Anambra, and I think they've been at it for months, for years. The only concern is just the politicians, who are always looking for every avenue to manipulate the process. And of course, the narratives out there in Anambra is not that encouraging. The deployment of the 34,000 policemen, I don't think they're going to really deploy that number. It's always on rhetoric, because by the time you get to the states, you hardly see sometimes that kind of number. Probably maybe we'll see it in the city center. But I think maybe INEC should also do more in terms of meeting with stakeholders, which they've been doing. What I'm saying is that they don't have to just make it what they've done before. Maybe even some days to the election, they should also still call all the OBs and all of that and appeal to them in terms of this is about your state, this is about your own elections, about your future. You have to hold it dearly, and protect your state and all of that. And also, on the part of civil society, I think we all also have roles to play here. We need to speak to some of the groups that are probably agitating, that give peace a chance, and including unknown factors that we've seen over time that, this is one election that we should allow the people to have their say. You see, one thing people must understand, even if you're agitating for secession and all of that, there are best way they do it globally, and you must be able to even have a representation sometimes to be able to say this is what you really desire as a group and all of that. So we are hoping that Anambra will be a very good case in terms of election, the results and the outcome. It's going to be difficult really for politicians to rig it, but what I'm expecting, which INEC should be prepared for, is an attempt to disrupt polls in different areas. We are likely going to see that, because some of the political actors are also feeding into this agitation and looking for loopholes. As we speak, there are people who possibly the only thing they are doing is how to undermine the process to be able to detract, subtract, add, But in terms of probably going through INEC to probably hard figures, minus figures, I think that's going to be very difficult, except we will have totally unpatriotic staff. And that's really, except you also don't have your ward agent. So, and you see, one good thing about this electronic transmission of results, even though it's for public viewing only, is that it is the Form E-C-8A, the primate results. And so it's that same results that if there is a court action today, that's what you're going to tender in the court of law. So that is what is transmitted. The only thing we are praying is that the National Assembly should transmit this bill to the president next week, and probably we're able to get this bill signed before Anambra. My thinking is, why I'm saying this is that the president has been carried along through the office of the Attorney General all the way through the process of, looking at everything. So ordinarily, they must have been studying and looking at it. They shouldn't wait until the final document for them to have. So we are hoping that the president will have that sense of urgency and say, if I sign this bill, it legitimizes the transmission of results that INEC will do in Anambra. And we are hoping that we will mount that pressure. And if the president probably sees a good reason to do that, and I'm sure he will want to do that, at least to let us start this, from Anambra before we get to Ikiti and Osun.
Ariel, we'll come back to that, but before we come to you, Paul, let's go on a quick commercial break to pay some bills, and we'll be back shortly.
What's on your bucket list? Would you like to travel the world? Live your best life? What if I told you you could blow right this minute and do everything on that list? Airtel is celebrating its anniversary and saying thank you to all loyal customers. You stand a chance to win up to 100 million naira with guaranteed cash tokens in the Airtel Recharge and Blow Anniversary promo. Plus 250 megabytes and 20 SMS free. How awesome is that? All you have to do is recharge to win. For more information, dial *444*4#. Everyone's a winner. So hurry now. The more you recharge, the more you win.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. We're discussing the upcoming Anambra election and electronic transmission of results by INEC. Paul, Yaiga has been active with getting young people to run, to vote, but we've seen a lot of apathy, and right now there's a deliberate push for apathy, especially in the eastern part of Nigeria. What is Yaiga doing, and what can be done to reduce this apathy, which we see certain factions trying to impose on the people?
So a lot happens around elections, and especially as it constantly relates to voter apathy. Top of my mind is one, the way poverty is weaponized in our election, and then two, the issue of security around our elections. We have seen increasingly that in the build-up to the election, the polity is so overheated that you begin to wonder whether you are going to the theater of war or you are going in for an election, to the extent that voters will naturally make up their mind whether to participate in the election or not. We have seen that happen in Edo, we have seen that happen in Ondo. In the pre-election report that Yaga Africa released of those two elections, we saw, for instance, in Edo that 12 of the 18 local governments were riddled with all sorts of pre-election related violence, from recruitment of political talks, activities of call groups, to stockpiling of arms and small weapons. In Ondo as well, we saw that in 13 of 18 local governments, where in fact in one of the local governments, I think it was in the local government in the capital, a woman was stripped of her clothes because she was wearing party apparel. Top was for a different party and the bottom part for a different party. And so with all of those sort of issues happening, people, of course, somebody that values his life more will first consider those things before they engage the process. Anambra is now before us. We're also beginning to see that happening in Anambra. In almost every local government in Anambra, beginning from the first week of September up until now, there have been all sorts of violence-related issues coming out of those local governments. So naturally, those are also going to affect the process. And also, when you think about the political alternatives that are presented, they naturally affect participation. And that is also because we have reduced election to just election day. So much time we talk about election, and you begin to hear, are people going to come out to vote? We tend to forget that election is a cycle, and one process gives birth to the other process. When we talk about participation or apathy, let's not limit to that election day. We need to talk about political education that will even get young people to join political parties. And that is the effort that the Not Too Young to Run campaign is trying to achieve. We have pushed and mobilized young people to get the president to assent to the Not Too Young to Run bill. Although we did not get everything that we wanted, it's a process. The next step is the Ready to Run campaign that Yaga Africa also engaged in the 2019. We saw incremental growth where we saw young people emerge as local government chairmen and even in the state houses of assembly. 2023 is before us. Another challenge also for the young people. Young Africa is coming up with another campaign to try to mobilize them, to get them to participate. But again, like we say in every other sector, you need also that enabling environment. And that is why we need to talk about providing that security for them and providing that voter education for them, voter mobilization, civic education on how to participate and how to make those choices that they think best represent their interests.
Commissioner, we spoke about the security of voters, but another troubling repetition we see in elections is the harm perpetrated on INEC staff. What is the Commission doing to protect the staff of your commission, of INEC?
Well, for the Anambra governorship election, we are going to deploy at least 25,009 ad hoc staff. And this excludes our permanent staff that will also be on duty. When you add those ones, you are getting to around 26,000. And these are people who have to be protected. We are going to have a high concentration of the media in Anambra. And we are envisaging that we are going to have at least almost 900 journalists moving into Anambra. We're also going to have a high concentration of domestic election observers moving into Anambra. And they have to be protected. And we also have the voters that have to be protected. In terms of the ad hoc staff, we are going to give them insurance cover. But no form of insurance cover can cover for the life of a single individual. And that is why we've made it a point of duty to discuss and collaborate with the security agencies in terms of protecting these young men and women who are going to be serving the country. So as at now, security has been beefed up in our local government offices and also in our offices in our office in Oka. We've concluded the training of the electoral officers and assistant electoral officers. The training of supervisory presiding officers started on the 15th, while the training of the presiding officers will start on the 19th of this month. So we are moving very, very fast. But our appeal is that the political parties should tone down their rhetorics to give people confidence that they can come out to come and vote and know nothing untoward will happen to them. We're also appealing to traditional leaders, religious leaders, and all the critical stakeholders to make sure that their messages during this particular period will be a message of hope and be a message of peace. And whoever is aggrieved should see the broader picture, that it will be constitutionally tragic if at the end of the day, we don't have election in Anambra. This is because if you look at section 178, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you can see that the period for the conduct of governorship election has been constitutionally circumscribed. The implication is that this Independent National Electoral Commission must conduct the Anambra governorship election on or before the 15th day of February 2022. If we conduct it on the 16th day of February 2022, the implication is that we have not conducted anything. Whatever we have done is null and void. Now, if you also look at section 179 of the Constitution, it provides that if on the first ballot, none of the candidates secures a quarter of the votes in 2/3 of all the local governments and also secures majority of lawful votes, that we are going to have a second election within a period of 21 days. So what you have to do in order to see the clear picture is also to subtract 21 from 15. And you can see that the period narrows down. So the period allowed the commission to maneuver is very, very strict. Now, section 26 of the Electoral Act says, if there's breakdown of law and order or threat of breakdown of law and order, that we can reschedule the election. But we can only reschedule within this constitutional window that ends on the 15th day of February 2022. That's why we are saying we really need to put everything on the right trajectory and conduct this particular election, because the implication of not conducting the election within this constitutionally allowed window is very, very grave. And so we are going to make sure that every staff that will be posted to Anambra for the purposes of this election is protected. And we're also appealing to all the stakeholders to give peace a chance, to allow us do what the Constitution and the law has asked us to do.
And when you speak, I'm so sorry to interject, when you speak about insurance, are you talking about monetary insurance for them and their families, for the people who are going as your ad hoc staff?
It's insurance for those who are going as ad hoc staff. Now, serving the nation is compulsory, but participating and giving your services in terms of participating in an election is voluntary. So when young men and women volunteer to go and serve their nation, we have a responsibility as a commission to protect them. One thing we must realize is that some of these young men and women doing their national youth service, some of them sponsor themselves in school. So some of them, the expectation on some of them is so high. Some of them did many jobs in order to sustain themselves. Some of them are products of community effort. Some of them are the son and the daughter of their parents. So the implication is that so much is expected of them. And you cannot allow your son or your daughter to go to serve the nation and be maimed or to lose his or her life. So that's why we are pleading that these young men and women should not be brought into harm's way, but they should be allowed to perform their duty to their nation. And then they should perform that creditably and come out. And we have also counseled them not to do anything untoward, not to do anything that is against the law, not to do anything that is unethical, and not to do anything that will infuriate the voters, but to treat every registered voter who has come to the polling unit to exercise his or her democratic franchise with some respect, with some level of dignity, so that people will vote and then continue to vote and then believing that at the end of the day, that their votes will be the only major determinant of who wins election and who does not win election.
We've run out of time. The reason I asked for that monetary clarification is because that is what Nigerians have been yearning for. So I'm glad that INEC is listening and you are implementing the feedback from citizens.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you how much has been spent by the Commission on this election alone. If you have the figures, you can quickly tell us from the top of your head. The Commissioner is laughing. He's not saying anything.
I don't have the figures because, you see, things are so flexible and we are spending so much money in terms of certain things that ordinarily we should not spend, and we are still spending, you know.
We will have to hold Yaiga and Aria responsible for telling us that, you know, after the election.
But there is something I just want to add to 1 minute, and I think, you see, our phone is also very important. The reason why we're bringing journalists is probably to capture probably a lot of things. And I think that's what citizens' awareness and education on how to use their phone. Those with smartphone, charge your phone on that day, be prepared to record all manner of things. People who are maybe staying upstairs, hidden areas. By the time, you see, evildoers know that they are going to be caught one way or the other, they are being watched by people. So the people being watched,
we have to go.
We just have to do
Commissioner
that.
Festus Okoye Paul, thank you so much for your time. All right, that's all we have for you on today's program. For those of you in Anambra, please go out to vote. Your voice matters, your vote matters, and we really want you to go out there and participate in your civic responsibility. All right, that's all we have for you. Again, do follow us on social media at TOS TV Network, at The Weekend Show, at Usasu Igbenadian.
And the Madaki on all platforms.
All right, visit our website, www.tostvnetwork.com, to read news and sustainable development and current affairs across Africa. COVID-19 is still very much out there. Keep washing your hands, keep practicing social distancing, keep wearing your face mask and sanitizing, and taking very good care of yourself. Until next week, same time, same place, stay blessed.